Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ Theo, từ trên Scout, logistics và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
Today, we've got a first-time guest who I think is probably top 5 in the world these days as far as actionable Amazon strategies. And she's going to give us an absolutely value-packed episode full of tips on generative AI, PPC, and more. How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. How can you get more buyers to leave you Amazon product reviews? By following up with them in a way that's compliant with Amazon terms of service. You can use Helium 10 follow-up in order to automatically send out Amazon's request a review emails to any customers you want. Not just that, but you can specify when they get the message and even filter out people that you don't want to get that message, such as people who have asked for refunds or maybe ones that you gave discounts to. For more information, visit h10.me/follow-up. You can sign up for a free account or you can sign up for a platinum plan and get 10% off for life by using the discount code SSP10. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's a completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world. We've got a special guest today, Ritu. Ritu, sashiburi desu.
Hisashiburi desu ne.
Oh, desu ne. Like, so first of all, we're going to get into your backstory about how we can even talk in Japanese, because that's something that's crazy. Were you born in Japan, or where were you born?
I was born in India, but I lived in Japan for 17 years. And
17 years. So from what age?
You want to know how old I am?
No. From what age were you living in Japan?
Mid-20s.
Also, so you didn't go to school in Japan?
No, I didn't. I went there as an adult. I was working at a company, an IT company.
Wait, 17 years?
Yes.
That means you had to have gone there when you were a child then, because you can't be over 25 years old. So I don't know what's going on
That
here.
is very cute. Kawaii.
The reason I was asking if you grew up, because I wore this shirt today. Do you recognize this character here?
Doraemon.
What is this? Tell everybody.
Yeah,
Doraemon. Yes, I grew up with Doraemon when I was a little over there. So
yeah.
There we go.
That's awesome.
Wow, I see. I like, I knew a little bit about you, but like I for some reason had this idea that you actually grew up in Japan, and that was why you were so fluent in the language. Because once you go as an adult, it's a little bit harder, unless you really immerse yourself in a culture.
I did. I really immersed myself in the culture. Like, I went there just for a year, honestly, and ended up staying 17. It's so crazy, like how that place had such a big impact on me. It was such a stark contrast to where I grew up, which was India, the land.
Whereabouts in India?
In Delhi, the capital city of chaos, is how I describe it. So yeah, from chaotic to super orderly. Like, you can imagine what a difference that is, like a stark difference from the world I knew. And I was I was just drawn to the calm and the kind of orderliness of that place, how things were punctual, everything happened as expected, there were no surprises, everything was like planned in so much detail, which I kind of liked. And I think where I'm at right now is a nice middle ground, because I think I like the chaos. It has energy, right? It has a certain type of progressive energy that all of us need, especially as entrepreneurs. We need that energy to be able to kind of keep moving forward. But then I also like the organizational skills that I picked up while I was in Japan, because you need that to have good execution, right? So I think best of both worlds is what I'm trying to be at right now. I'm trying to draw from both my cultures.
Now, did you go to university in India?
Yeah, I did my electronics engineering from India. And then I actually did I went back to school much later in life. I went back to school in the US, and I did a course in data science, which is why I kind of I'm very attracted to PPC and data analytics and that sort of stuff.
When you graduated, with the electrical engineering degree, did you start working in India, or is that when you went to Japan? Or
Yeah, I started working right away, and I started working in India, and I worked for an IT company, and it was a pretty long stint there as well. Like I was very interested in technology right from the start, and it kind of aligned with my life's goals and stuff like that at the time. Little did I know that I would completely switch at a certain point. When I was in Japan, I worked for not only the company that I was in India. I kind of went to their Japan office and I started helping them out. But then later on, I switched to a more technical role, at a high school, American school in Japan. And then I had my kid and, took a break from work. And then I kind of delved in a little bit of entrepreneurship. I started running my own business. I had an Etsy store.
in Japan?
Yes, in Japan. While I was in Japan, I started my Etsy business, selling jewelry. It was like kind of one-of-a-kind jewelry. And I realized that, gosh, it's not enough just to create a listing and people are not going to flock to that listing. So I had to teach myself a whole lot of stuff like marketing, advertising. So I learned Facebook ads, Google ads, blogging, YouTubing, all of that stuff.
So Etsy in the United States, or is there an Etsy in Japan?
No, there's an Etsy in the United States, but I was selling on the US market from Japan. So I was producing my stuff there, but I was shipping it worldwide wherever there were shoppers. But, of course, shipping costs are exorbitant. Sending stuff from Japan, it's very expensive. So mostly was attracted to the data side of things. Yes, I have both left and right brains because the creative side was just all my creations, the jewelry that I made. But then I needed the data science side of things to kind of round things off and make money out of my business, because everything we do here is based on data. And I know Helium 10 is a data company, so is PPC Ninja, and like we might think that we're in the business of selling goods, but actually we're in the business of leveraging data, right? So that's why it was so important for me to get that knowledge and make sure that I'm kind of ready to go with my own endeavors.
Now, so Etsy was kind of like your first online marketplace. Now, did you ever end up selling on Amazon, or did you go straight into, software and consulting, et cetera?
Yeah, so I've never sold on Amazon, but I've helped businesses sell on Amazon. So it's basically the data side of things. So I only sold on Etsy. I sold on my own website for a bit, but then I have never sold on Amazon myself. But PPC is where I'm focused on. You
talked about having an analytical mind, and that's kind of like what you're known for. When you've spoken at events like $1 Billion Seller Summit and others, is especially in the last couple of years, you're one of the go-to people when as far as AI and things like that. Now, I'm a little bit behind. Like I don't, I use, even on this podcast, we use like AI to generate, like title options and transcripts and things like that. But I would say like I'm not one of those like all full force ahead, like, hey, AI is going to replace hours and hours of work. I haven't really adopted to that effect. So the typical Amazon seller, what are some things that you don't have to be a 7, 8, 9 figure seller, but just like any Amazon seller, if they have not started utilizing AI to help them in their operations or business, let's take it to that spectrum first. What are some things that you think that any Amazon seller could benefit by utilizing AI?
Yeah, there's so much. Actually, the magic happens when you start combining things. So AI by itself may not be the be all and all of things, because it's not going to operate in a silo. You've got to combine it with other pieces of data that you have access to. Like, for example, just this morning, I was preparing for a new product launch for one of our clients, and I'd got all my kind of data from Helium 10, and I was at the stage where I have to kind of come up with some keywords for broad match campaigns. And I wanted to make sure that, all the right keywords are in there, not just the long tail ones with high search volume, but I wanted to make sure that I'm capturing all the seed combinations of important words that make sense. So what I did was I exported the Helium 10 Cerebro analysis, and I fed it to ChatGPT and asked it to come up with 2-word and 3-word combinations of seed keywords that would perfectly describe this product. Now, what I'm going to do next with that is basically convert that into broad match modifiers, which basically means you add a plus sign in front of all the seeds, and then I'm going to create campaigns with it, right? So that's something that I do at every launch. Like it's not. I generally don't skip that step. It's an important one for me. So in addition to all the long tail keywords, I will come up with enough seed words that will run at a slightly lower bid, but will be like a discovery campaign for me through the broad match modifier channel. So that's kind of one thing that I do. Then like yesterday, I was doing another one for another client where we have a list of keywords that we discovered from the search query performance report, which is kind of this new, very valuable piece of data that Amazon is giving us these days. So from there, I was able to come up with a structure for sponsored brand headline ads, and I didn't have to do the work. I just fed that entire list to ChatGPT and said, hey, organize this into groups of very related words, and then give me a headline ad, which is less than 50 characters, because that's the amount Amazon will give us. And then it did that for me. I also gave it one other important instruction, which is to make sure that one of the keywords or a very close variant of that keyword in the group must be included in the title. And that's basically my way of saying, hey, I want this to be a lower funnel ad, not a generic kind of upper funnel ad, because my sponsored brand ads tend to be more focused on ROAS rather than brand discovery and brand awareness. So those are some of the ways that I'm using it almost on a daily basis. I had switched to ChatGPT Plus a long time ago. I've been paying for it, and it's totally worth it. So there's many.
How much is it for somebody to subscribe to that?
Yeah, it's about $20 a month. It's not much at all. Yeah, it's just $20. And what it gives you is, all the beta features, all the new stuff. So right now you can actually upload files very easily. You can upload any kind of file to almost any kind of file to ChatGPT, and then ask it to analyze the file, and then you can ask it a bunch of questions. So it's just made life so much easier. And I mean, I think sky's the limit with what you can do with AI. It's like I always feel like I'm not using it enough, even though I'm using it probably quite a bit more than a lot of people. But I still feel, gosh, I need to use it more.
Interesting. So there's the ways that you can use it in PPC. Now, I remember you presented something. I've seen you speak, various times, but I don't remember which event this was at. It might have been $1 billion, but where you were doing like translation,
yes,
using like Helium 10, because like you were doing research. You weren't translating the English keywords. That's obviously a big mistake that some sellers make. Hey, I've got my Amazon USA listing. Let me just translate it, or let me just translate the keywords. No, you need to do the research in that marketplace. So you switch Helium 10 to Amazon, Germany, for example. But if you're not a German speaker, you just see all this Deutsch keywords and you don't really know what it means, or so they're doing it in Amazon Japan and they don't speak Japanese like you, so they might not know. So what's your I'm not sure if it was AI or just something in Google you were doing to kind of like make that process a little bit easier.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ Helium 10, từ chơi Scout, lược, tích và warehouse. Xem hình thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.
Yeah, so what we've done is we have integrated ChatGPT right into Google Sheets, and we had to write a little bit of code for that. But once we did that, what's happened is that we have these ready-to-go sheets where we simply change the prompt and add a bunch of keywords, and then it will just translate into whatever language, right? So, and I've noticed that any translation done by ChatGPT is way better than Google Translate. And I've tested it, especially in Japanese, because I can read it. I know that the quality is much better. Just to give you an example, ChatGPT will use the right combinations of kanji and hiragana, whereas Google Translate will not. It just doesn't do a great job. And if I tell ChatGPT to give me a translation in all 4 different scripts, that's kanji as well as hiragana, katakana, and the romaji, it will give all those to me. It's a no-brainer to use ChatGPT for that sort of thing rather than Google Translate. And then other languages as well. Like, we're just onboarding this client that has 4 markets, and we have no speakers of those languages on our team. But with ChatGPT, we can simply include that into our SOPs, into our workflows, and just use those sheets to kind of get the final product out. So it's really great, the combination of Helium 10 and ChatGPT workflows. They work really well for us. Okay, cool.
Now, going back a little bit, just remember you were talking about broad match, modifiers.
Yeah.
There might be people out there who don't know what that means. Can you explain that a little bit?
So a broad match modifier is a type of broad match. So when you're setting your ad up, it'll still be a broad match. However, by simply adding a plus sign before every part of the keyword, which means if it's a 2-word keyword, then both the parts will have a plus sign in front of them. What you're going to ensure is that the buyer's search must include those words in exactly that format in order for that match to happen, right? So this eliminates any kind of synonyms or related words that Amazon might try to kind of connect to, which you don't think need to be there, right? So at this point, Amazon is even replacing exact matches with weird sort of words that it thinks are similar. So we don't want that, because we've done all of the research to find out which exact version of that keyword is giving us the highest search volume. So we want to stick to it. In order to make that happen, we're actually finding ourselves doing more and more work with broad match modifiers, because all the other match types are being weird anymore. Like, exact matches are not behaving like exact matches. Same thing with phrase match. And broad match anyway always was a bit too broad, and it was always kind of giving you all kinds of weird matches for sponsored brands. But then it started doing the same thing for sponsored products as well. And that makes it a little challenging. It can be wasteful. So yeah, broad match modifiers is a great way of making sure that your matches are clean, and that they don't bring in kind of extraneous, superfluous words that you shouldn't be targeting.
Do you use that 100% of the time when you have a broad campaign? So you always have, if it's a 3-word phrase, you'll put the plus in between each of the.
Yes. 100% of the time. We've been doing it for the past 2 years, and we actually future-proofed ourselves because we knew this was coming. It's kind of like Amazon always follows Google. So we knew this was coming because Google introduced broad match modifiers first. Now they've already sunsetted. So I don't know where this is going to end up for Amazon, because what I've heard, and I don't want to just speculate, but what I've heard people say is that, Amazon might be moving toward a future where there aren't any match types. There's only a word, there's only a keyword, and then it figures out how to match it the best way. Now, it's plausible, especially in this AI world, it's plausible that might happen. But in the interim, I'm betting on broad match modifiers. And exact match, of course, we can't do much about the fact that Amazon isn't treating exact matches the way they ought to be treated. But that's the best we have right now.
So what would the difference be between using broad or doing broad target with modifiers compared to phrase for the same, like coffin shelf? Like, so if I do coffin plus shelf in broad or coffin shelf in phrase, what's the difference in the potential, showings of that keyword?
Yeah, no, I think the showings of that keyword might totally depend on the bids, and they might also depend on relevancy. So it's very hard to predict which of the 3 match types are going to win. That's been a struggle. You can't really say if you put coffin, what was it again? Coffin shelf?
Yeah, coffin shelf.
Yeah, if you say coffin shelf broad, coffin shelf phrase and say coffin shelf exact, what we would want it to do and what would be logical is that if I had a higher bid for exact match, then all the searches should come and match through exact match. But that's not always the case. We've seen so much variability there. It also depends on which campaign, starts out those keywords. And then each campaign has its own story, its own history. Because let's say you combine that keyword with a bunch of other keywords, and let's say those other keywords got a majority of the early data points. Like it started hitting some other words, coffin, long tail words, before it hit your coffin shelf word. Then what happens is that this word starts getting starved of impressions. The other words start to take dominance. And these words that get starved of impression give you the false impression that they're not working. Whereas it's just a matter of how things started off, like what were the set of searches on that day, on that very moment that Amazon decided to match. And then it's going to just take its cues from whatever little data it has in the beginning, because that's all it has to play off of. And then it just keeps giving more and more and more impressions to the early data points, and everything else just gets ignored. So it's like a game, like PPC is a game that, you've got to be you've got to be willing to keep playing, trying different things, different ways, moving things, trying it in a different match type, in a different campaign, restarting, stopping, all of that,
For example, if I just do, going to this same example, coffin shelf, no modifier, and broad, and nowadays, something crazy come up with like, spooky decor, potentially could even come up, not even including the word, but ones that are traditional would be like, coffin shelves for men, coffin shelves for women, but then also it could be coffin shaped shelf, like it could insert a word, or shelf shaped like a coffin, like changing the order. But if I put that modifier in there, does that force it, in your experience, to be only longer tail? Like it's coffin shelf has to be in there as a phrase, and then it's only putting words at the beginning or the end, or still it could switch it up a little bit?
Yeah, it will switch it up. So coffin shelf could be shelf coffin even. As long as the word shelf and the word coffin both exist in the match, it will match. Yeah.
Excellent. Going back to Helium-10. Now, I was looking. I did it. I still haven't seen your replay of your presentation you did for Helium-10 Elite a few months back. But I was looking at your slides, and there was something that you were talking about magnet and seed keywords. And just by looking at the slides, I couldn't tell what the strategy was. So can you explain what are you doing? I'm not sure if this has to do with ChatGPT, but just how are you using magnet in a unique way?
Yeah, so what I do is I start off my keyword research by looking at audiences, like who is the right target audience for a product, right? So that's my first step. Now, the audience list will help me figure out what words these people use. So if it's a garlic press, and let's say there's 5 different types of people, there could be just regular straight up chefs, there could be restaurant owners, there could be whatever. So there's like 5 or 6 different types of people who might use a garlic press. Now I asked ChatGPT to tell me all the words that these audiences or avatars are likely to use when they search on Amazon. So I'm actually starting from a suggestion of a seed keyword. That's my starting point. And then I use those seed keywords that ChatGPT generates to go and dump that into Magnet. And then I use the expand option, the second one, not the first one. And that basically gives me all of the keywords and their search volumes. And that's what I need. Basically, I want to kind of run it by search volume information to figure out if it is really a word that I should be going after. Now, I don't always come up with those words, probably because the search volume is too low, in which case I don't need to worry about it. But I can still use that information as broad match modifiers to just generate some sort of discovery, so like, for example, eco-friendly, I don't know if there's any sort of garlic press that's eco-friendly, but let's say someone in that audience wants an eco-friendly garlic press made out of bamboo or whatever. I will still create, broad match modifiers that have those important words in that combination, so that I can at least start to do some keyword research through an ad rather than through existing search volume data.
Switching gears from keywords now to images, I know you've talked about, Midjourney, Canva. Have you played around at all with the new Amazon one that they made kind of for sponsored brands? And then if so, like, what's your results? I've had very different, like some of it are absolutely terrible, but then I know that part of it's because I don't really know how to prompt. I'm not very good at prompting, but what's your experience with the new Amazon AI image generator for sponsored brand ads?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad for someone who's really struggling with image creation in general, but it's not really usable for every case, right? In some cases, it's going to be hard to come up with the perfect background for your image. The other trouble I have with it is that the product image is too small on the canvas, and that's not how I like my sponsored brand headline ads. Generally, this is a tip actually for our listeners. When you create a sponsored brand lifestyle photo, the biggest mistake people make is that they fully capture the lifestyle setting in which that product is being used, but then the product itself is so tiny. That's a big mistake. That shouldn't be the way, right? The way to do it is to have the product front and center. It has to be like blown up right in the middle, and then you could maybe suggest what the background is. You might just use suggestive creatives rather than have it in absolute terms, like it's being used to kind of in the setting that it's being suggested. So for that reason, I generally like to request for zoomed in, highly close up type of images, so that we can have better conversion rates. And there's a story that I just want to share here real quick. We had one client with a dog product, and the product was being used on a dog that was sitting in the lap of a woman on a sofa, and then there's the living room in the background. So you can imagine the size of the product. It's like so small you can't see it, right? So then what we said to this client was, give us a zoomed in image. So then they zoomed right in. So all we see now is the paw, and we see the product, right? So it completely changed the metrics for that ad, and then we started using that particular image for many other of their sponsored brand headline ads, and then rest is history. They really started growing after that. But the point is that close-up images are more important than pretty images, right? So pretty images, anyone can create pretty images. You want to make them highly converting images, and for that reason, I might not use the Amazon's AI generated images right away, unless they become better, unless they can kind of keep the product as the hero, right? It needs to be front and center. I'm trying to figure out any prompt that can help me get to that stage, but I'll keep testing. I'm not sure yet.
So then what, outside of Amazon then, like I said, I know you're using like Midjourney, which is another one that's not too expensive. Isn't it like $10 a month or something like that to use Midjourney? Or so then what if somebody's like, all right, you told us what some basic stuff that people, how ChatGPT, for $20 a month can help Amazon sellers. What is something that any Amazon sellers of any level can use Midjourney for that's kind of simple and definitely adds, value?
Yeah, I think Midjourney is definitely the leader. And if you can learn to use it, there's nothing like it yet. But, even straight up ChatGPT is now getting pretty good with images. So you can describe whatever you want, and then it is connected to DALL-E in the back. And then it generates those images and gives them back to you right in your ChatGPT prompt, right? So if you have the paid version, then you can start testing that as well.
So let's say I've got a pretty nice image. Maybe it's a white background image or something of my product. Would the first thing I should do with experimenting with AI and Midjourney and things, would it be making an infographic? Would it be trying to make a lifestyle? Like I remember in the early days of AI, like it was you could never put a human being in there because they would have like 17 fingers and just crazy faces and stuff like that. But like, what should I do then? What kind of images, or is it not really? Don't use it for your main images, but use it for like the sponsored brand and sponsored display, things like that.
Yeah. So, I think we need to think of images as layers, just like we think of layers in Photoshop, right? There's layers like a background layer. So if you want just the ambience, the mood, the background, you generate that layer independent of anything else. That's one way of going about it. And then you layer in your product. You have your no background product, then you can always place it right in the middle, do those sorts of things. So it'll probably be a 2 or 3 step process where you think of each layer separately. Even the humans, you could bring humans in from a different source. You can get your backdrop from somewhere else, and then you can get your product from your own product images and put them together. That would probably give you the best results. But if you try to have Midjourney do all of that, you might, experience some failures there or some surprises with, like you said, 17 fingers and stuff. Now, Midjourney, the latest versions of it are getting better and better. So it's very human-like, and it doesn't appear awkward. The facial expressions aren't awkward anymore. So that's good news. Just means that we're going in the right direction. It's only going to get better from here. So I would think of layering as one concept. And then, of course, where you want to apply it is another thing. Infographics, I don't think ChatGPT or even Midjourney would be good for infographic, other than just generating the background for it, because text, it still doesn't do a good job with text. You'll have to use some of your other tools for text. So again, it's layering, combining tools, and coming up with the concept. Those are some of the ways in which you can use images. Now, posts is another interesting one. A lot of people are using Midjourney for generating posts, and that's a good way of generating lots of post content, because Amazon doesn't allow you to repeat an image twice. So what you can do is you can have DALL-E or even Canva. I've used Canva AI, which is different from Canva normal. I can explain the difference, but anyway, so Canva AI can generate based on your description of what kind of backgrounds you want, and then you just slap in your photo, your kind of hero image on top of it, and there you have your post. It takes barely any time to create like 20 different posts, and most people don't realize this, but posts are free advertising. I would highly recommend, generating posts on a regular basis and take advantage.
I've seen them more in search results lately too.
Yes,
like
exactly.
it's one of those widgets that comes up that never happened 6 months ago or something. But
yes,
but now it's right there on page 1. So it's important to do. I agree. All right. So earlier you talked about search query performance. I love search query performance myself. It's just like, it's stuff that 3-4 years ago I would have bet $1 million that Amazon would never release this kind of data to the public, and Amazon definitely has come a long way. What are some other ways that you're using search query performance, analyzing the data that Amazon gives?
Yeah, so search query performance, like you said, it's unbelievable that Amazon is actually sharing this information out. So it's really up to us to take advantage of it as soon as possible. Like, almost feel like time is of essence here, because everybody's going to have access. Everybody has access to that information, but right now most people are in the state of overwhelm. They're like, oh, I have this great data, but I don't know what to do with it, right? So most people are stuck at that stage. But if you want to take the next step, then I would suggest start downloading those reports right away, because these things also get lost. Amazon, discontinues things that you think they're going to be giving us forever and forever. For example, the brand analytics data that used to be, millions of rows, has suddenly been compressed to just 10,000 and so on. So, I mean, there's a loss there that cannot be replaced. So I would say, number one, start downloading your at least your monthly data at the ASIN level, and then stitching all that data together. And by stitching, I mean maybe putting it into a data warehouse. We use BigQuery in order to kind of bring data in. And the way to stitch it is by making sure that your reports have some extra columns, like the date column has to be there. Then you have to make sure that you have the brand name in it. And you want to make sure that your market is in this, so that When you stitch all that information together, then you can use a single report like a Looker Studio to dip into the data warehouse. And you can basically use switch filters to switch between your different markets. So if you plan your data strategy well, then you will be able to use it more efficiently than just using it in a throwaway style, which most people do, right? Most people go download a report, they look at it, they stare at it, and they're like, oh, okay, whatever, done. I mean, and it's thrown away. You don't want that. You want a system. You want a system you need an ecosystem for managing your data so that you can look at those from time to time. You get a month over month review. You get a month over month trend. You can see if anything has lost its search volume over time. It's so easy to check that at a search term level once you have stitched all that information together and is available in maybe something like a Looker Studio.
How about something that's good? It's important to understand like how to get started and not just like, all right, let me just look at search query performance or this data just, in the UI on Amazon. But then what's the next step? Now I've got everything in my data warehouse and stuff. Like, for example, one of the things I like to look at in search query performance is comparing the conversion rate by the keyword for just the overall niche compared to my own conversion rate. But, I think that's probably one of the most no-brainer things. What are some other maybe not so common things that you're looking at when you get all of that data into your data warehouse and start looking up stuff?
Yeah. So one of the things that I find really interesting is the average price per search term. So this is, Amazon gives you the average price, and that basically is a good indication of whether that search term is going for cheaper products or is it going for slightly more expensive products. Just to give you an example, let's say you have the word lotion, right? Now you have a $50 lotion by L'Oreal maybe, and you have a $5 drugstore brand, same thing, selling lotion. But if you're looking at the search term lotion, whatever, daily lotion or whatever, and if you see that the average price for that search term is going at $6, let's say, so that's the average price of the product being sold. That is telling me that no matter what I do to compete on that search term, it's going to be hard because I'm going to be competing with lots and lots of cheaper brands. So we actually have filters on our search terms or search query reports so that we only look at those searches that are in the ballpark of our product's price point. That basically eliminates a lot of the noise, because otherwise you might be led into thinking that, gosh, this is a great keyword, and then you spend lots of money on it and ends up being a high cost scenario. You don't want that. So you look at both of the things. One that you mentioned, which is what we call strength, keyword strength, which is determined as a ratio of purchase share and impression share. If you can get that ratio to be above 1, then that's a good keyword that is strong, inherently strong, because you're winning more of the purchase share than you're winning of the market, right? Which basically puts it in a good spot. And then the second one would be the filter on price. The third filter I would put is search volume, because again, we don't want noisy, insignificant terms to distract us. And I think the fourth filter I would put there is data sufficiency, like how many sales have you had for that keyword over that period of time. So those would be the four filters to kind of get everything else out. And then, that would be our way of figuring out which search terms are good. Then the other use cases of that would be to stitch that data with your ad data. So when you stitch those two together, you can find gaps on a kind of in a systematic sort of way, not just like a one-off throwaway kind of way, where it's always being merged and it's always coming together, and you can always see these are the ones that I'm not advertising yet. And then, I think those were the two main ones. The third, slightly more advanced one is when you want to figure out if a search term is good for product A, product B, product C, product D of your catalog, because they might be sharing those keywords. Then you can see relative strength across your different products and see where you want to channel your information. Now that comes with a caveat, and that caveat is that there's a very high halo sales ratio on Amazon. which means you might be directing traffic to one of your product variations, and something else is actually getting picked up eventually. So you need to know all those pieces in order to make the right decision, and essentially in terms of using your traffic source as a fire hose, literally, and saying, okay, I want to direct it to this product and not to this product. Unless you know what the halo sales are, you could be off.
Really great stuff. Now, before we get into your last strategy, maybe it could be a PPC strategy since that's your specialty. How can people reach out to you if they, how can they find you on the interwebs if they want to, get some help with some of the stuff that you've been talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. So just look up my full name, RITUJAVA, and you should be able to find me there. Just say hi, and I'll be happy to help. And other ways you can just reach out through our website, ppcninja.com, or anywhere else you see me.
Awesome. Now we have something that we do on our show. We call it the 30-second tip. So, you've been giving us lots of great tips and strategies, but what's like a hard-hitting one you can give us in 30 seconds or 60 seconds or less? I'm not going to cut you off. Go ahead.
So I think that, we're all sitting on tons and tons of data and we don't know how to use it. I would suggest start thinking of strategies to use your data by connecting them up. Every piece of data that we get from Amazon or other sources, whether it's keyword rank tracking or search volume data or your ads data or organic data, also competitor data and stuff like that, it's in different locations. It's hiding behind walled gardens and stuff like that. You want to figure out a system to bring it all together. And I would recommend using a data warehousing strategy to start bringing everything together so that you can start looking at it holistically. So I would recommend start to think of simple ways in which you can convert your snapshot data into time series. That would be my advice. And time series is basically, for people who don't understand that, it's basically assigning dates to all your downloads. If you're downloading a business report, make sure you add a column and put the date there so that becomes a way of identifying when that event happened, when you're connecting so many pieces of data together.
Awesome. Well, どうもありがとうございました。お疲れ様でした。Thank you so much for your time. This was really awesome. And we'll definitely be having you back on the show sometime next year to get your latest strategy.
Awesome. We'll look forward to that. Take care, Bradley. Have a good one.
Anh chị đang bán hàng trên Amazon. Skyrock cung cấp các dịch vụ dành cho các nhà bán hàng trên Amazon với mức giá cực kỳ ưu đãi như đăng ký brand với USBTO, từ kênh, từ trên Scout, tích và warehouse. Xem thêm thông tin chi tiết dưới phần mô tả nhé.